Well, it's personal between me and you, and I'm going to do you some serious harm, you big stiff idiot.
The Untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, I know, like, Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence is not official yet, so I get that. But guess what? They got me gassed for this fight, and I'm very optimistic that things can get done next. I've been told some things behind the scenes that aren't so positive about Crawford Spence getting made immediately, but I'm still gonna maintain my my belief that it does get made immediately because money talks and bullshit walks, and I don't think there's any better time to make this fight. So we're gonna do two separate videos. We're gonna do why Terence Crawford can beat Errol Spence and why Errol Spence can beat Terence Crawford. This video will be why Terence Crawford can beat Errol Spence, because ultimately this is the outcome that I think will happen. I believe Crawford will win. I'm Team Crawford. And yeah, so let's get into it, man. So we gotta start off with like, what does Terence Crawford do good? What's made Terence Crawford the most consistent performer on a fight-by-fight basis over the last half decade plus? You know, let's get into it. So when we talk about Terence Crawford, obviously the number one thing about his performances and what makes him great is his versatility, the ability to switch hit. You know, this really separates him from a lot of guys because he can a lot. First of all, one criticism of Crawford that's developed over the years, because he's won a lot of his fights recently, like his last 3 or 4 fights, he's been beating the crap out of these dudes primarily out of the southpaw stance. So people will say that, well, Crawford can't beat fighter A or fighter X because he only boxed out of the southpaw stance. Like I've heard people say that in arguments for Errol Spence beating Crawford and Jerron Ennis beating Crawford if those fights ever took place. But I just think Crawford got to a place where, like, you know, if he's really dissected you and he really feels comfortable enough in that ring, he will get into that southpaw stance and stay out of it exclusively until you show him something to make him back to orthodox. Now, when he was fighting Thomas Delorme at that time, Delorme was, I think Delorme only had like 1 or 2 losses. And Delorme, you know, people can say they want about Delorme, but Delorme could punch. And that was a fight where Crawford was looking to push Delorme back and kind of like, you know, put him on the back foot and test those boxing skills and try to impose himself on Delorme, and he did. And he was ironing him out the whole fight with right hands and left hooks out of the orthodox stance. The southpaw stance is a stance that he used because I think he's got a sharper jab out that stance, and he's a better sharpshooter. When I say sharpshooter, I mean like counter punching on the move. So I don't think it's a fair assessment of why Spence can beat him because he's been winning a certain way for a while, and you want to disregard the past. No, he can beat up people in either stance. As far as it goes with Spence, like one thing that makes Spence really good is like Spence is a very fundamentally sound boxer. You know, I like the analogy Spence gave himself. Spence referred to himself as a Tim Duncan of boxing. You know, great, not too flashy, not too, you know, doesn't do more than he has to, and keeps things very simple. And that's a great analogy because one thing that makes Spence great is his hand positioning. If you watch Errol Spence fight, his hands always are in place. He don't drop his hands. He's probably the best at boxing at keeping his hands up. And because of his hand positioning and his understanding of distance, he's also in a great position if you miss a shot to counter you. Where I think Crawford would have a chance against Spence to really do damage is in the department of counter punching. Now, he looked great in this fight against Ugas because Ugas operates a lot out of mid range, and you know, Ugas doesn't really have a lot as far as dexterity or the angles he punches from. That's what Crawford has going for him greatly. I mean, if you look at the Sean Porter fight, Crawford gave up a lot of the early rounds, but Sean Porter, as the fight went on, was getting countered a lot. Why? Because Terence Crawford can punch from here, from here, from here. He can do it out of different stances. And he punches very well on the move, which allows himself to punch in between the guard or punch in between the punches of whoever his opponent is. So we know that Errol Spence Jr. throws the most jabs in the welterweight division. It's a volume jab. The same thing I say for Crawford or for Ugas, I'll say for Crawford. He can only beat Spence if he cuts down that volume jab, and he can cut the volume jab down in a number of ways. I think obviously being a counter puncher and punching in between the shots, because we know that Crawford's tendencies early in fights is to give away the first and sometimes even the second round, the first rounds of the fight. We know with Spence, he's going to try to look through that jab as much as possible. So I actually think if when they do fight, because I'm going to be optimistic, I think that Spence will be throwing that jab a lot, and if Crawford is switched on, which I think he will be, Crawford will have plenty of counter punching opportunities within the first couple rounds, and if he can take advantage of those, it gives him the chance to hurt Errol Spence, and if not hurt him, at the bare minimum, get his respect early in the fight, into which then he can grow his way into the fight and figure out more things as they say, downloads the information. So there's that. You know, people can say what they want, like Errol Spence Jr. Against Ugas, he got hurt or got stunned in the 6th round because he thought the referee said break. Now, even if the referee did say break or he thought he heard something, that's called a lapse. He had a mental lapse in that round, and he got away with it because Ugas just didn't have that killer instinct in him when he had him, on the ropes and knocked him halfway across the ring. He didn't have any urgency to jump on him. Terence Crawford is a much different proposition because there has been nobody recently, right now, that's active, that has a knockout streak going, that has been able to knock guys out in different ways. Sometimes Crawford knocks guys out with uppercuts, sometimes it's a counter, sometimes it's a hook, sometimes it's a straight right hand, sometimes it's a straight left hand. Terence Crawford hasn't not only been getting knockouts, but he's been getting knockouts with pretty much every punch in the book. And yeah, like when he knocked out Gamboa, he knocked him out going backwards. When he knocked out Delorme, he knocked him out coming forwards. When he knocked out Kavaluskas, he knocked him out with a uppercut, right? I believe it was an uppercut or a hook. I can't remember what it was, but he knocked him out in a counter punching situation. So, and when he hurt Kell Brook on the first knockdown, that was with like a hybrid jab, like a little hybrid jab, a half hook, half jab. So he's not only a versatile fighter, but more so than that, he's a versatile finisher of his opponents. He doesn't rely, he's not like some of these guys out here that rely on one particular punch or one particular combination. He can knock you out in a variety of different ways. And I just think for Spence, he likes to fight in the high guard, and he's very fundamentally sound. He's very good at rolling punches. I mean, because even when Ugas landed, he saw the punches all the time, and he would just roll the shots. So with Crawford, I just think fighting that high guard and using a volume jab, it's going to give Terence a lot of opportunities early to counter him and get his respect. And then, we know Earl is a great inside fighter, but I don't think people quite give Terence the credit he has for his physical strength. We saw Terence fight a Jeff Horn and muscle him around the ring. I know Jeff Horn is not Spence, but Jeff Horn is a big welterweight, a guy that had a lot of confidence coming in, beating Manny Pacquiao in a controversial fight, but he won, and he boxed well enough to give himself a chance to win. Beat Ali Funeka, who was a former world champion on his way up, beat Randall Bailey, who was a former world champion on his way up, and it meant nothing when he fought Crawford. So, I just think Spence's ultimate undoing in this fight will just be a lot of his tendencies, not saying throwing the jab is bad, but sometimes, a lot of the times actually, when Spence is at range and he can't close the gap to mid-range or inside, he's going to throw that jab a lot. And for these guys like, Ugas and Danny Garcia, these guys are very limited as far as their skills and knowing how to deal with that kind of a style. And it just allows Spence to get into comfort zone. So I just think Terence is too smart to let Errol Spence Jr. throw that many jabs around. And I think due to his versatility and his ability to counterpunch on the move, he's going to be able to cut that jab output at least by 10 to 25% around. And that will be the difference in the fight. Terence Crawford's boxing IQ, his counterpunching on the move, and things like that. So that's my initial take. I'll probably do an updated version of this one whenever they get the fight signed. But for my initial take, that's why I think Terence will beat Errol Spence. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you Team Crawford or are you Team Spence? Who are you picking to win this fight and why? Let me know if you agree with my points, disagree with my points. I'll always like to read the comments. And like I say in every single one of these videos, You can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.
Thank you for watching another video on True School Sports, the home of boxing. If you made it this far, do me a favor and do yourself a damn favor. Hit that subscribe button and surely you will not be disappointed. You know, True School Sports bringing you the latest and greatest, the untouchable, boxing content, interviews, news videos, breakdowns, live fight reaction extravaganza. We've got a great community of people here, boxing fans all over the world, from America to the UK to Australia and on and on and on. So join the empire today. Hit that subscribe button. Take care and God.